Today a video about the Samsung 960 EVO 1TB drive that I have installed in this system that you're looking at here on the right. And here we've got to look at the HTML5 interface, the ESXi host. So that's the operating system I happen to be running. And here's a look at the storage devices. Now the thing that's missing from this list is my Samsung 960. So let's see if a simple reboot makes it visible again. So the article here on the right is about this issue. People find the drive will sometimes disappear after a reboot or after a shutdown and then a power up. So the workaround for folks has been to yank out the power cord. That's it in a nutshell. It's not just the Supermicro issue, it's other brands as well. So there's various reports on how to induce it, and one report is about how to avoid it with like an Angel Wings PCIe to M.2 NVMe adapter riser card. It looks kind of like this right there, Angel Bird Wings. Somehow the problem went away. So that kind of hints at something electrical, right? But I also have a report of someone doing a firmware update, which came out this past week. So today is January 29th, 2017. Samsung Magician has a firmware update that it's going to offer this system. And that should get me out of this perhaps, because one report, that's it. I don't even know if it was a Pro or an EVO, but one person says they got their Magician to upgrade their system, and I think that must be the EVO because that's the only one that Magician is said to update. So first, I'm just doing a simple reboot, right? I'm not excising, editing, deleting, anything. I'm just going to speed up boring sections of this video. I don't want you to feel I've done anything off camera. And this video you're seeing is if we had a VGA cable hooked up straight to the server. It's called IPMI. So my mouse here is pointing to the port for IPMI. We're basically pointing a browser that pops up a Java app and shows us a view. There'll be HTML5 in the future. I just find the keyboard a little more reliable right now, and I just want to show you the problem first before I go trying to solve it with a firmware update of the Samsung 960 EVO. So hopefully you followed the premise here that first demonstrating the problem. Well, drive disappeared, not too compelling, even you haven't seen the drive visible yet. Fine. The workaround, which is unplug for a bit. I'm going to show you that on camera. Using this actually, a way to pull out the power cord without even stepping away from the server here, or my workstation where I'm recording this. And the drive will just show up again with that simple unplug action and replug. All right. So soon, when this thing's done booting, I'll be able to log in. And we'll have a look at storage. And then I'll decide what to do next. This video is not carefully planned, nor can it be, because there's a somewhat, not completely random, but unpredictable nature in how this problem shows up. So clicking on storage, the drive still did not show. So time to shut down again. Once it's shut down, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to reach for the power switch here. And that literally unplugs it. So I can show you. Right there, this white device here by Ubiquiti lets me unplug power. And that's it. It goes from 9 watts standby to 0 watts. Well, it's completely de-energized from the wall. And I'm watching the second hand of the clock. I'm going to give it the 15 seconds or so that people have been saying seems to be sufficient. Waiting for it. And another 5 seconds. We'll power that on now. Soon we're going to see the IPMI Java applet die because it has no power. So I'm surprised it hasn't popped up yet. I can give that juice again. That's probably 20, 25 seconds. So we've powered up the machine, but it's going to whine a little bit. And I'm going to have to log back into IPMI. There's no type ahead on this, so it's going to make it a little harder on me. There you go. Some kind of error popped up there that session's no longer useful. There you go. It killed off Java, and you're awkwardly watching me reconnect as I forget the host name for this guest browsing session, which has no memory. All right, I think I got it. Nope, that's the other one. So 20 is down. That's the IPMI interface because we just power cycled. It takes about a minute for IPMI to boot and be ready for me to log back in. Okay, I'm back in. Host is on. It's booting. We didn't lose any time really. It's just booting. So once we get reconnected here, we really just want to log into vSphere host client, or sorry, ESXi host client to have a look at what VMware says it's doing. Okay, that was a little weird. So IPMI acted a little wonky there at first. Let's see if I get the Java applet going this time. Again, doesn't really matter. The machine's just booting. We're not missing anything important here. Would we have seen anything that indicates NVMe? No, because unlike SATA, it doesn't show drives that are NVMe M.2 drives. So you don't see them at boot. There's nothing to see there. Still, it's kind of annoying you didn't see a video the whole while there because of what just happened. Okay, here we go. Finally, we're back. All right, so we got our out-of-band way of looking at ESXi booting all set now. And soon we should be able to log in here again. Once it's done on the left. While waiting for that, I'm going to mention there were theories going around about the BIOS of the system. For me, actually, initially. Firmware of the Samsung, there's no release notes. That's another problem. So there's just a lot of discussion here. People with drives dropping if they try to do vSAN. It's a consumer drive. It won't be supported. That's really kind of a tangent here. And then finally, how do you even reach Samsung support, which I finally nailed down a few days ago. Asking for an RMA. So in case I end up returning my drive, I have two of these actually, one from Samsung.com, the other from Amazon. I have return authorization on both. So it's a little of the pressure. But the thing is, a lot of these shipped right in December. Let me show you. Right before Christmas. Even if you back ordered for months like I did. So the timing's pretty bad. You've got about a month to figure out if you're keeping this or not. Maybe 15 days with some resellers. And, well, the drive would disappear for people. So it's a bit of a disaster. And I acknowledge that right here at the top for people thinking about ordering, right? Hoping to spare people some grief. I really wished Samsung had mailed me a press eval version back in October when I could have maybe been on top of this or found this earlier. But didn't have that luxury, so. Okay, so the drive came back. So unplugging and plugging back in. Hopefully that was compelling enough. I actually have another video where I show this too, a couple weeks ago. So drive's back, great, whatever. Now, you've seen the problem. You've seen how you resolve it with a power cord. The last video I did was me resolving it with a BIOS change, strangely, or inducing the problem with a BIOS change and resolving it with a power unplug. So now we got a set of videos. One that shows me induce the problem by making a BIOS change and rebooting. Today you've shown me with the problem already existing. In my case, it's just been a simple restart. And you're more important, you're going to see me trying to fix it this time around. So when I refer to another video, I should probably show you what I'm talking about. It's right here. So wow, 1,100 people watching that way back in January 2nd, showing the problem. Okay, so this boot, I got to pay attention. I'm going to hit F11 to choose an alternate boot device. I want to boot off of Windows 10 that I have on I think an OCZ Vertex drive I had laying around. So F11 to invoke the boot menu. And wait for it. And what we should hopefully see is the Windows 10 boot option. That'll let me run Samsung Magician. So in a VMware environment, this is not an enterprise drive, mind you. This is a consumer drive. So in a VMware environment, when you don't have a bootable ISO from Samsung, and they don't plan to release one for a few weeks, maybe, if we're lucky. Right here, I explain that. We have no other way to get this firmware update done other than just booting into native Windows. Now, mind you, you're not supposed to lose the data on there. So if I have like a VMFS data store, which is true, that's what I have. VMFS, that's VMware's file system, like you would NTFS under Windows. You're not supposed to lose any data, right? So should be no big deal. Now, this machine was just installed, a fresh copy of Windows 10. There is nothing on there, so yeah, we got that. Let me just clear up the video here for you a little. So what that means is this fresh copy of Windows 10 does not even have Samsung Magician. So you're going to watch me go ahead and install Samsung Magician. Just take a moment to do that. And I believe I linked to it right in this article. So the way you're looking at this machine is through this Java applet. This is not remote desktop, right? This is actually the video coming out of the machine. All right, now Samsung Magician, it's the very first hit. If you Google for it, it's not exactly hard to find. But let me just do that. All right. And let's see if even Bing did it. All right, so you want to go to the consumer area, Magician software. All right. Now this assumes web access, so this system does have internet access, so you should not have any trouble with it pulling down the firmware. You'll see Windows was so freshly installed that, well, it doesn't even show file name extensions. All right, let's remove the clutter. And just do a straight up Samsung Magician install. If you haven't seen version 5 yet, here it is, finally with Windows 10 support. Have not tried it yet under Windows Server 2016. Be fun to see if it lets you. I think it was Micron or others where they don't let you do that. Or they'll make an Enterprise 1 for server only and it won't work on the other. It's messy. Boot ISO would be much better, frankly. Get rid of all that stuff. All right, here's Magician pulling from the web. Unlike a boot ISO, this will pull the latest BIOS. So we're about to see, does it match what people said over here? Let's have a look. So, the new version that's going to be offered should be 2B7QCXE7. All right, let's go over here and let's have a look. Current version installed is CXE7. Let's do a new one. It's going to be shut down after 20 seconds. And there it goes. Well, that was simple enough. So we could let it finish, which I'll do, and then I'll just watch it shut itself down, I guess. And again, no release notes and no idea if I had a Samsung 960 Pro, if it would let me do it. I know a few days ago someone complained, no, this didn't help them with the Pro. So the machine powered itself off. I'm not actually going to unplug it. I'm just going to power it back on. And that'll be actually kind of interesting. It'll just be one data point, but it should be good to see if the drive shows up still. Again, though, my problems are intermittent and many other people's problems are intermittent. It doesn't necessarily mean too much. So, it takes a little while to boot the system here. I'll speed up this segment. Okay, we're back. Naturally, I'm going to want to run Magician again. And let's see what it says about my firmware. All right. Wow. yeah, curveball, I guess. So that's a whole different version. Huh. Okay. As good a time as any to update the firmware of my 850, which I didn't notice. What I really wanted to do was the 960. Whoa. Not supported? What does that mean? Okay, that's not so good. I need to go back to my video there and see in the first one what showed. But yeah, I believe I was looking at the 850 all along, kind of forgetting I had 2 Samsung branded drives in there. The thing is, the 850 is not really pertinent or important. There we go. Okay, so we're cool now. That was kind of weird. I could have pulled out the 850 if we had to, but QCE7 versus QCXE7. So it looks like I may have a typo, or the person who dropped the comment on my forum just made a typo, is most likely it. The issue there. So we just saw some sort of, weirdness with the reliability of the app scanning. But I'm going to move on. So I'm really thinking this is simply a typo with an X missing in the middle. So it sure looks like we now have the latest firmware. I'll have to go look back at my video if there was a problem with that, but I'm not too worried now. I'm just going to point out too, I don't think it's relevant, but to be thorough, when I said fresh copy of Windows 10, I meant it. That means even the storage controller was never replaced. It's just the standard generic NVMe driver, not the Samsung driver. So before I boot over into VMware land there, I want to go ahead and grab that. Let's see how that Google download or Google search goes. Goes to the Samsung consumer page. Driver looks promising. We already did Magician. And something a little weird's happening there. That was interesting. Little Edge browser quirk. So it's a straight executable like last versions. And it's going to take care of swapping out that driver for us right out of Device Manager, which I just showed you what it looks like. Now on that previous window in Magician it said Windows driver, right? After we do this, it's probably going to say Samsung driver, as you'd expect. This video is not really about benchmarking. I've run many of those before, and yeah, you get the expected speeds on the system. All right, never bother with 10 gig drivers, so we can ignore that. And we have a Samsung driver now. Wishing I'd reboot it, so from December. All right, well, I'm going to reboot, but I'm rebooting into ESXi land to see if that drive still stays visible. The real test will be multiple reboots, try to make a BIOS change, and if I still have it after a BIOS change and a couple reboots, I'm comfortable that I fixed the problem. That's all it'll take for me. Others may need to be more convinced or may need to do more testing. So hopefully I'm in the home stretch here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and speed up this section until we have ESXi hypervisor booted off of USB again. Stand by. Okay, the drive's back. That's good. As promised, I said I'll go ahead and reboot, and I'll make a BIOS change this time around. Okay, to be consistent with the previous video where I induced the problem by simply changing the power on activity right here, power on button, I can do that again. Change it to instant off. F4. So it's just the behavior of the system, nothing to do with S3 states or anything. I could have just as well changed the splash screen of the BIOS, or any setting in the BIOS is what people find. If you hit F4 and save it and then reboot the system, you'd sometimes have the drive go away. So like I said, this is it. If the drive is still there after this, I'm convinced that my problem's behind me with this firmware. I probably want to do a few more reboots. I haven't yet decided that, but I think, well, yeah, probably 5, 6, 7 times. Every time I made a BIOS change, I believe the drive would disappear under VMware. Now, if I made a BIOS change and then booted into Windows, the drive wouldn't always disappear, which smells like software, right? But that's the goofy part of the story. People putting this M.2 NVMe card in a PCI riser card and then reporting, hey, Paul, then it boots fine every time. So again, complicated, strange story. I can't wait to really know what the true root cause is. Some sort of strange timing issue, the way the firmware handles PCI bus scans at boot, any number of things. Whatever it is, it will be interesting, I'm thinking. Because this is just not a simple problem that came up here. Also, kind of bad that Samsung did manage to finish it in under 4 weeks. So the early adopters felt the pain the worst. Not good, not a good situation. Because had I given up and mailed it back, well, it pushed me right to the edge. Like 3 days before warranty's up, I'm trying to do tech support last weekend when I was home, and had to call back in a weekday and explain to them at day 33, please give me an RMA. And then they said, well, it'll be 5 to 7 days before we'll process it. So Samsung.com hasn't even gotten back with me for permission to mail back this unit. So obviously I'm pretty keen on hoping it works myself, because they might not consider this a warranty issue. They might just say it's some sort of incompatibility. We'll fix it in a firmware update. Well, wouldn't it be crummy if that firmware took months for them to truly fix it? So obviously it'll be a bit of a sigh of relief for people if something as simple as this firmware fix seems to resolve all the issues on the internet about power. Only time's really going to tell us that. It's still rather early days, January 29th. The first report from Copenhagen, I think, on my site was only a couple days ago. So I'm going to mention, too, that I actually have more cards on hand from these folks, Amfeltech. Pricey, but the only company making 4-way. That's two-sided, what you're looking at there. So if you want to jam a lot in one system, pretty interesting. And there's now NVMe pass-through out there. So imagine 4 of those, and you can maybe do a vSAN and a nested virtualization rig. Anyhow, that's a video for another day. A higher price point. If you go all the way up here at the top, you're talking only, I think, $20. All right, so we are back and booted with me. Oh, I just did caps lock. Sorry. New keyboard. All right. Drum roll moment. Drive still there. I'm good. I think I'm ready to put a fork in it. Obviously, I'll update my post. I'll say something along the lines of, oh yeah, after I published the video and all, I rebooted, I don't know, 5 times and built my confidence. But for the purpose of this video and everything I wanted to show, I'm done. Firmware update likely did it. Let's poke a little further and see if you can actually see evidence of a firmware level somewhere in here, and I doubt it. So when you look at storage device view, you're not really going to see that. This is just partitions and junk. If we go here, so some drives, like when you look in Windows Device Manager, you'll see an indicator, evidence of what firmware you're at. But from this, I'm not seeing, any easy way. There might be a command line way to do that. Let me pause and look that up just a moment. Yeah, I think I'll have to look up or do a CLI for that. Well, I'll save that for a future date as well. On a plane tomorrow, actually, off to a conference all week. Hopefully you found this video helpful and not too confusing. Thanks for watching. Ooh, there's that Q depth. Cool. And thanks for visiting tinkertry.com.